We are Paracel, the first Paraguayan company in charge of extracting eucalyptus cellulose. We are proud to introduce you to the largest private entrepreneurship in the history of our country. With an estimated budget of $3.2 million, which represents approximately 2.5% of the country's gross domestic product, we are working to create a new export item, cellulose. This project was born with the vision of generating a positive impact on society from the manufacture of biodegradable products as we seek to create value by protecting the environment, the communities, and their culture. What do? We extract cellulose from eucalyptus, which is the raw material for different types of paper and packaging. We will be using the sustainable plant, which is located in the Concepcion department on the banks of the Paraguay River and 20 kilometers from the urban center of the city of Concepcion. This region is ideal for planting, cultivating, and harvesting trees throughout the year, thanks to the frequent rains, climatic conditions, flat topography, and adequate soil. The construction of the plant will begin in the first half of 2021, and it will take about 28 months to be completed. Once the construction is completed, the plant will operate under the highest global sustainability standards that we have already been implementing, such as ISO 26000, B Corporation certification, IFC performance standards, among others. These international standards guarantee the ability to satisfy the most demanding markets in social and environmental issues. Forest process. The protection and preservation of native forests, as well as the responsible management of natural resources, are pillars of our work. We assure that Paracel will not use wood from native forests for the production of cellulose. Our plantations will be located on lands that have already been used for livestock. We currently contain approximately 170,000 hectares of land, 60% for plantations, and 40% for protected areas. Planning of our production process begins with the planting of eucalyptus to generate our own wood. In the first stage, the soil will be prepared, then the seedlings from local nurseries will be placed, and in the future, also from our own production. As for the plantations, they will be mostly our own, and also, private producers who want to participate in the provision of wood will be given space. Finally, the harvest will be carried out by means of a mechanized process that cuts the trees, cleans them, and loads them into rail wagons for their transportation to the trucks that carry them to the plant. The discarded bark, branches, and leaves serve as natural fertilizers, since they are integrated into the soil to restore nutrients and mineral salts that forestry needs. This process brings benefit to the conservation of lands, to the control of soil erosion, to the increase of the support capacity of the fauna, and to the reduction of global warming. But how will Paracel help reduce global warming? Paraguay emits more CO2 than it captures, and in this sense, Paracel's forests will reduce the amount of CO2 present in the atmosphere. Since the net amount of greenhouse gases removed annually by Paracel's operations is of 28 mtCO2e, metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which represents the annual average emission of 3.7 million Paraguayans, and 5 times the CO2 emissions of all transportation in the country in 2015. Craft production process. The production capacity of the factory will initially be of approximately 1.5 million tons of bleached pulp for paper per year. Let's go into the factory and see how we get to those results. Here, what is known as the cellulose cycle will take place. For production, we will use the process called craft. The wood arrives at the plant in logs. These are cut into chips and later go to a digester where they are cooked. Subsequently, a filtering process is carried out, which consists of the separation of solids from liquids. The solid contains cellulose, and the liquid is made up of non-cellulosic components that form a black broth, known as black liquor, which is burned to generate clean energy. We'll see that later. The washed cellulose goes through a bleaching process through the use of various chemicals. Once the cellulose has been bleached, it goes through the drying plant where cellulose sheets are formed that look like paper sheets and are approximately half a centimeter thick. They are packed in packages of 250 kilograms each, which are finally loaded onto barges for export. As for the black liquor of the cellulose, it goes through a concentration process and is then injected into the boiler, and renewable energy is generated there. Beyond power generation, the original goal of the boiler is to recover the chemical products. This is one of the great environmental advantages that the craft process offers, and it constitutes one of the greatest technological achievements available worldwide. This boiler, known as the recovery boiler, is the heart of the plant, and it is the most complex technological piece of equipment. Management of environmental impacts. We will have a socio-environmental management system for the proper handling of impacts, according to national and international norms and standards. The factory will have a composting system and the production of soil acidity correctors to seize solid waste. Regarding the effluent, it will be discharged into a river through an underwater outlet in a controlled and safe manner. It should be noted that for the production process, Paracel will use water from the Paraguay River, which will be extracted downstream from the effluent discharge zone. This guarantees that there will not be any type of modification in the aquatic environment, since it would be counterproductive for the industry to contaminate the water that will later be used in the production system. A high percentage of the project budget will be allocated to acquire the best water treatment technology to guarantee that the effluent quality complies with the country's laws that establish water quality indicators to protect people's health and the ecological balance. On the other hand, we will implement a health and safety program to protect the employees. Renewable energy. Now, let's talk about the resulting clean energy. The industrial plant will produce its own electricity by burning black liquor and biomass that are renewable sources of energy with a capacity of 220 megawatts. The factory will only consume around 120 megawatts, thus generating a surplus of 100 megawatts for the national electricity grid and will therefore provide clean energy for the peripheral region. As an example, the surplus clean energy is equivalent to the consumption of a city of around 200,000 inhabitants. Management of social impacts. One of our goals is to measure actions and their impact based on Sustainable Development Goals promoted in 2015 by the United Nations, which will be used as an analysis tool both to establish improvement actions as well as for the generation of innovative actions. Relations with indigenous communities in the project's area of influence are being managed under the guidelines of the 1039/18 Protocol Decree for the consultation process and for the free, prior, and informed consent of the indigenous peoples that live in Paraguay. Paracel will produce positive social impacts. This project will generate approximately 4,000 direct jobs and 40,000 indirect jobs. In addition, we are working on the training of 350 Paraguayans who will be the first technicians and operators of the factory. Likewise, the project will have more than 20 socio-environmental programs that will allow us to contribute to the socio-economic development of the country and also to work for the protection of the environment. The values that inspire us are safety, excellence, responsibility, transparency, sustainability, and innovation. From Paracel, we work to promote a more sustainable, inclusive, and safe ecosystem with solutions for humanity's and the world's needs. We are Paracel.